Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Entrepreneurial Mindset. You built your minimum viable product. Now the question is, why did you build it the way it is? Because you like to learn. And this is the so-called validated learning in the BML cycle. What is validated learning? Validated learning helps you at the very end to know whether you still should go on with your business or not. That's the first thing. And secondly, if you go on, if you have to optimize or if you have to pivot. So if you have to do small changes or have to do a big change of everything. Let's look at an example and try to understand what optimization versus pivot are. You do have a vision for your company, and this vision probably holds true over time. And also if you pivot your company, so if you change it entirely. However, if you start your business, you probably start with some kind of product which fits into your vision. But the question is whether people really use this product as it was given, or whether they might want to use it in a different way, even pervert this product. And if you see they do that, maybe you follow them, you try to understand them, you try to change the product, maybe also entirely, in order to follow your own vision. And this is changing your strategy. So if you see that your experiments, your small experiments are not approved by the market, you can optimize. If the optimization doesn't show an improvement, then you have to pivot. Let's go to an example, the example of PayPal. PayPal started many, many years ago, and they started as an encryption software basically. And they had connections to Palm, so they went to the Palm users or the Palm company, which is one of the first PDAs there, and wanted to sell this encryption software. And said, you might want to use encryption software. Well, for what? Maybe you send messages and they have to be safe when you send them. So you have to decrypt the message on the one side and then send it and encrypt the message on the other side. And then you can basically send safe messages. But Palm people said, yes, but what for? I mean, it's a calendar. And we basically don't send messages. We don't send a lot of things around. So why do we use encryption software? So they started to think about and started to understand why should they use encryption software, and they came up with the idea of payment services. And this is basically when they started to use the encryption or decryption encryption software for payment services, because this has to be safe. And when they saw, by the way, that not many people do payments on the Palm, but rather use websites, and especially we're working together with Google, the success story of PayPal started, which was a complete pivot. I mean, the vision stayed the same. We build software for encryption, so we are the best ones in sending some safe messages around, which could also be payments, but it was not messages, it was payments, and it was not on the Palm. At the very end, they used websites and especially stayed with eBay as a service and built the bank of the future maybe. But you see, if you start with your encryption software, you might want to do it better and better and better. But if you see, oh, it's not going to help the optimizations, we have to look for entirely new applications, entirely new products. Then they came up with the payment service, and this was the real product they got successful with. So that's the difference between optimization and pivot in terms of real change of your strategy. And now, how do you do that? This is about the validated learning, which is the process of creating an empirical proof that value-creating facts for the contemporary and future business models of the company were found. And this is really important. You have to find empirical proof that this is going to work. This is why you build an experiment. You build an experimental setting, and we started with this. You start with your hypothesis, even before you build your product, which is your leap of faith. So you believe in that customers will buy that product. And this is an hypothesis of value or a hypothesis of growth or both. And you would like to answer following questions. Do customers recognize the problem? Is this really the problem? I mean, think about the encryption software. There were probably people sending messages around which had to be decrypted and encrypted, but for payments, the problem was a lot bigger. So there was the real problem. If there was a solution, do they really buy it? Think about the online style consultant. The problem is there, but do people really buy it? And this is a perfect example where you can build 2 different websites. And then you put 2 different websites into the market. And one has a very lean consultant service, style consultant, and one has an excessive, and then you can see whether people use it or not. And then you have different forms of payment, different forms of prices, and so on. So you can easily try to learn about that. So the next question, would they buy from you or from someone else who's maybe also doing style consultancy? And can you create a solution for the problem that the people are going to buy from you? And this is where you build your MVP on, so your minimum viable product. You try to sell it to the market, the real market, not only your friends. I mean, you always start with friends, but you have to go to real customers and sell to real customers. And after you've sold, go up and ask them, why did you buy? And try to understand when they tell you why they bought, yes, this is the problem, and this was the solution to it. And if you do that, then you can measure its success. And ideally, you're successful. So this is the end of the build, measure, learn cycle. So you start with your hypothesis, is over here. Then you build the minimum viable product. You measure, you look at the data, and then you have the validated learning ready, and you know whether you can still optimize or you have to entirely change your business, and maybe you do some other fashion thing or some other style consultancy or whatever, which brings you to the path of success.